And once again, welcome to the podcast. This is the 10-Minute Life Coach. This is a very simple podcast. 10 minutes of life coaching, business coaching, personal development coaching right off the bat, and then 5 minutes or so of the salesy stuff, all of the back end stuff, all of our housekeeping done at the end of the party so you can get a chance to join the party and sneak out once people start to clean up, if that's the way you want to do things. Thank you so much for being a part of this podcast. If you have any questions about what we are, what we do, or how you can find things for us or help us out, go to the website, 10minutelifecoach.com, and we promise we're getting up to snuff and getting that website basically right where it ought to be. In the meantime, today's lesson is exactly on that listing, and we're batching some recordings. So when this thing may actually be produced has been kind of the whole time shifting thing has thrown things off. But so we're not exactly sure when exactly in the span of time this will actually be out there. But think of it this way: the effort we're putting into this podcast is worth the effort it takes to put into the podcast. That may sound kind of cryptic and a little just kind of wishy-washy, but it's essentially a life mantra that you might want to start considering to take on. The effort for what you put into things must be worth the actual effort, and sometimes it's just a matter of getting the effort in. If you want to accomplish something, you want to achieve something, you want to be something, you have to put in some semblance of effort, and sometimes just getting it done is hard enough. Just having a chance to do it may seem impossible, but finding the will and the way to get things done, even if the feeling and the spirit of the effort is not all there, can make a lot of difference. I have been doing radio basically full time for about 7-8 years. Been doing it on a part-time basis in this second life in radio, going on 14 years in various bits and pieces, from being on the air to just straight producing to writing to just doing sometimes the gopher work. And sometimes I can tell you, actually very often I can tell you, there are days when I just don't think I have it in me to produce anything, even if it's something as simple as a 2-minute bit, because you would be surprised how long it takes to get a 2-minute bit written and complete it, especially if that 2-minute bit has no pauses in it. If it's supposed to be something that's recorded in one take, it can be a little harrowing. It could be a little interesting. It can be kind of hard at times. But if something must be done, then it must be done by someone. If I'm on the hook to get it done, then I have to get it done, because somewhere down the line, someone needs whatever it is that's being produced. For this podcast, for example, while it may not be a big money-making venture, there are people who like to hear the podcast, or people who may want and need a certain podcast coming out, and people that use this for lack of better terms, as part of their routine. If it doesn't come out at more or less the same time, because sometimes it's technology that is the issue, if it doesn't come out at basically the same time every week for people to get in their fix, then things get off schedule. Very often you'll find when something is delayed and your schedule is just slightly shifted, it doesn't work out so well. So the effort it takes just to make this podcast work, even if some days we don't really feel like getting a lot of stuff into it, some days the topics aren't quite as dynamic as the others, some days just don't quite feel like getting in front of a microphone and talking. And as odd as that sounds, there's very few days when I don't feel like talking into a microphone, but there are very many days when I don't feel like actually having a conversation with people, and sometimes having the conversation with you in the form of this podcast can be a bit harrowing, a bit difficult, hard to do. So there are days when you just flat out run out of things to say, and no amount of research, no amount of writing, no amount of meditating, and no amount of just input from others can make you feel any better. Whatever's being tossed at you just doesn't feel like it fits into anything that's going on. So some days the effort to do these things are pretty tough. And that's one reason why we have been batching these things, not doing them on a weekly basis. It's not quite as live and a great feel for what's going on in the real time, but it makes sure that when we have the time and have the ability and have the means to do the effort, we get as many done as possible. And sometimes we'll scrap a few. That's one of the good things about having a couple batch together. We can scrap one that we don't like and replace it with something that comes out better when we have that extra batch of energy. But the effort is there. If you need to do some improvements to your life, maybe it's your health, you have to do something about your health. You need to eat right. You need to get some sort of exercise program in. and you just don't have it in you to go full-blown, outstanding 100%, 80% is better than nothing. 50% is better than nothing. Making a plan and reviewing a way to trying to get that plan into place is better than nothing. The effort you put into the effort sometimes may be enough to kickstart you to getting it done, or at least give you a better plan when next time the actual spirit moves you to make things happen. If you have a big project that needs to be done at work and the deadline is looming and you just do not have what it takes to get it done, talk to folks around you to make sure make sure they know what exactly is going down, that things just aren't clicking, the project isn't working. Maybe it's not a project that you should be working on from the capacity of it's something that you can't handle, so you need a little extra help. Maybe it's just something that you need a bit of inspiration to get into. Maybe it's sometimes a swift kick in the butt to get you off the air, get you off your butt, and get your back in gear to get things going. Sometimes a little bit of a chewing out can be the motivation to wake you up to get you to go, if you know what I mean. So think about that next time you don't have the power, you don't have the will, your soul is not in the project you want to do. Think about the fact that it must be done, because if it must be done, it must be done. If it's on you to do it, you have to find some way to get it done, even if the effort and the energy is not really in you. If it doesn't have to be done by you, then find a way to find someone else who has the energy, has the resolve, or maybe just the desire to actually do it, and may take it from you so that you don't have to worry about that piece of thing. We talk about delegation as one of the basic rules in personal and business development. You find someone to delegate the things you don't want to do, you aren't very good at, and the time-consuming things that take away from what you should be doing. The problem with that advice is, many times there is no delegation, or it was delegated to you, or you're one person, solo person, not making enough cash from the venture to really justify spending extra money on someone, because time is money to them too. Spending extra money for someone else to take that task from you to give you the time. Sometimes that's the way it is. But it's still very important for you to get what needs to be done. Even if you do not have the energy to really do the grandest job of it all, sometimes you just got to fill the hole because the dead space is not worth it. In radio, it's bad to have just blank silence just like that. Dead air is deadly in the business because you don't know what's going on. And the big worry on the side from me as a person who makes money in that business is enough dead air isn't going to make someone think, hey, I wonder what happened to the guy. It's just going to make them want to change the channel to something else that is actually broadcasting. The same happens for podcasts when there's a lot of big pauses, big things. Even though you have a file and if something went wrong, you would see it. It has to be done. So if this podcast gets published and it doesn't go out on time, there's your dead air. There's your missing spot. There's your something that was expected that didn't get done. That makes a hole. So some days you're just not going to have it in you. And today I don't really have a big grand push to give you in that, except for the fact that on some days when you don't have it in you, you've got to figure out how to do it anyway. You've got to come up with some plan to get it done. If not by you, by someone who can figure out how to get it done. Just because you don't have it in your spirit doesn't mean it's not important and doesn't need to be done. Figure out a way. Find the space. Do something ahead of time. If you see a lull coming, maybe do something to prepare for it. Maybe find some way to interject some sort of energy in that moment when you're losing it, or save it so you can interject it. But just because you don't feel it doesn't mean it ain't getting done. If it must be done, you must will yourself find a way to get it done. And thank you very much for joining us for the podcast. I'm Jay Cleveland Payne, and this is the 10-Minute Life Coach Podcast. We are in the 70s, I think, with this podcast. This might be podcast number 70. We batch them up and we kind of have them lined up, and sometimes some don't make the cut. This one was one of those where the message was maybe more for me than is for you, and I apologize if the delivery was a little dry, was a little bland, but I did want to get out the message on the fact that some days you have to find ways to make things work even when you're not feeling it. We're trying to get ahead on some things right now, and so we are batching some podcasts, and this one, it may just be redone with the same topic, just re-record it as we get back into the next batch of things. But we're trying to batch some of the podcasts, some of the audio work, some of the front-end produced work so that we can get some other things done in the process to make your whole experience better. I have 2 websites that need some serious attention. The main website that you'll probably care about is the one that goes along with this podcast, the 10-Minute Life Coach podcast website at 10minutelifecoach.com. Also, my main webpage, which is jclevelandpayne.net, which is supposed to be a hub for all things me, but so far, just is sort of a big mess. Every time we get to trying to rearrange things, we get kind of, we basically get distracted by the look and do a format change and never actually get the new information lined up there. So that's what we're working on, getting those websites taken care of so you can find what you need to find out about this this podcast and everything else via those websites. Also, this is housekeeping, so you have to bear with me as we do housekeeping. Also, you can still get a copy any way you want to, either in paperback or in digital format, Kindle format of the book, Quick Steps, Your Better You. The more copies you buy, the more of these things I can do for this brand, plus the Your Better You brand and other things as well. So that's always in the queue. Want to promote the edition, which even though the time shifting has to be thrown off, it's been a few weeks at this point, but we have rolling right now, I'm pretty sure it's still rolling, the Internet Toolbox Daily Podcast, which was once the One Tool a Day podcast. Now it's not just one tool, it's 4 tools, but it's not a bonus. It's the 4 tools we released via social media and the webpage on that day. We give you an audio version of that so you can get that to remind you to go back and grab it and talk about whatever you want to do for the internet tools. These are great tools, things that we find across the internet. Myself and a team of 3 people curate these things, and every single day we make sure that we have good links to things. Sometimes a bad link slips out, but we have good links to great tools out there for you to use on the interwebs. I'm going to go ahead and cut this thing short because we're trying to batch these things, get a couple in quickly. If you want to get in contact with us, the grand us, the best ways are to send emails to info@jclevelandpayne.net, or you can visit the websites, and hopefully we'll have some place that works where you can send us messages, 10minutelifecoach.com and jclevelandpayne.net. Of course, subscribe to this podcast so you get it instantly into whatever feeder you want to use, and a review would be great if you have the time to give us some stars, to give us some write-ups, or just send us an email telling us how exactly you feel about what we're doing, and we will do our best to do our best at it, or do our best to improve on what it is you've given to us to improve on. In the meantime, hopefully you're enjoying the great messages and the great knowledge that we're doing our best to provide for you, because I'm definitely enjoying it and always learning something from you guys out there. I cannot put into words how blessed I am to have the chance to have the ability and to actually do these podcasts, even if some days the energy and the focus is not there. So thank you so much for dealing with us and maybe a bit of lack of focus in this one. Hopefully more energy and more focus in the next edition of the 10-Minute Life Coach.